John Deere was once a symbol of America's heartland, a name that meant trust, loyalty, generations of hands building something greater than themselves. But now, that symbol is cracking. Layoffs, outsourcing. The same company that helped shape rural America is now accused of abandoning it, and the people who made it great are demanding answers. What happened to the promise? What happened to the pride? This isn't just about one factory. This is about a movement, and the question that could define a legacy. Will John Deere stand with America or sell it out? Chapter 1. The announcement that shook the Midwest. The news hit like a thunderclap through the Midwest. 225 jobs? Gone, just like that. John Deere announced layoffs at its Harvester Works factory in East Moline, Illinois, and everything changed overnight. For over a century, this plant was more than just a job site. It was a symbol, a promise, a cornerstone for entire communities who built their lives around the Cath's famous green and yellow. Fathers, sons, and grandsons worked under the same roof. Local restaurants opened their doors early for shifts. Churches, schools, small businesses all thrived on that payroll cycle. And now, the factory that once promised security is now a silent reminder that loyalty means little when circumstances come first. The announcement didn't just cut jobs, it cut trust. For families in East Moline, this wasn't just a layoff, it was a collapse. Workers came home with tear-filled eyes, parents wondering how to tell their kids the house might be next. Local officials scrambled, community leaders rallied, but the damage was done. And the biggest question hanging over everyone was simple: why? Why now? Why them? Why a Tapa that built its legacy on American soil would abandon it? The reaction was swift. Shock turned to outrage, outrage turned to protest, protest turned to headlines. John Deere wasn't just a brand, it was a way of life. And with one press release, that life was put on hold. Chapter 2, Legacy in Geometry. For nearly 2 centuries, one name has meant trust in American agriculture. John Deere, founded in 1837, built its reputation on hard work, honesty, and the heartland. From Illinois cornfields to Kansas wheat plains, that iconic green and yellow wasn't just a logo. It was a promise to stand with farmers, to grow with communities, to be American-made. Fathers taught sons to drive Deere tractors. Families built generations of livelihood on Deere machines. The brand was more than machinery, it was heritage. But today, that legacy is cracking. With each layoff announcement, with each job moved, with each local shop that closes its doors, the foundation that once made John Deere a symbol of rural pride now feels like a betrayal. Loyal customers, people who once swore by Deere, now feel left behind, forgotten, and angry. The message they're hearing is clear: profits over people, shareholders over communities, convenience over commitment. And that hurts, because John Deere wasn't just a company, it was family, it was identity. And now, for small towns across the Midwest, that identity is being outsourced. The tractors still run, but the trust, it's stalling. And if John Deere doesn't act fast, if it doesn't remember the roots that made it great, it risks becoming just another corporate logo. And the legacy that took 187 years to build, could be erased in a single decade. Chapter 3, Offshoring and Automation. Progress or abandonment? John Deere says it's about innovation, But to the people who lost their jobs, it feels like abandonment. The company is investing heavily in automation and AI-driven agriculture, touting it as the future of farming, machines that don't need drivers, equipment that thinks on its own, robots in the fields, satellites in the skies. But here's the problem. The farmers don't feel included. The workers feel replaced. In the same breath that John Deere rolls out autonomous tractors, it also announces the transfer of American jobs to Mexico. Skilled laborers, many of whom dedicated 20, 30, even 40 years to the company, are being thanked with pink slips and then replaced by machines. The message: tech is the future, but humans are expendable. And it's not just factory workers. Farmers across the Midwest are watching the tech boom from a distance, frustrated. Because for them, farming isn't about innovation, it's about tradition. And many say Deere's technology is too expensive, too disconnected, and too focused on Wall Street, not Main Street. Is it progress? Or is it a cold strategy to cut labor costs, outsource production, and ramp up profits, regardless of who gets hurt? Because when John Deere pushes buttons in a boardroom, it doesn't just affect factory lines. It affects families. It affects farms. It affects the soul of rural America. Automation may be the future, but if John Deere forgets the people behind the machines, it might be a future without loyalty, without trust, and without customers. Chapter 4: The Human Cost. Beyond the numbers. When corporate executives talk layoff, they talk in numbers. But in places like East Moline, Illinois, numbers mean names. 225 jobs cut. Thought not just a line item. That's 225 stories. Mothers, fathers, veterans, single parents. People who showed up early, stayed late, worked weekends, not for recognition but for security, for a steady paycheck and a future they believed in. And just like that, it was gone. We were family, one laid-off worker said. Now we're just expenses. That pain doesn't stay inside the factory walls. It spills out, into the diners, into the barbershops, into the classrooms. When John Deere leaves, it takes more than jobs. It drains life out of entire communities. The restaurant that served line workers at 5:00 a.m., empty. The church collecting donations for struggling families, overwhelmed. The small-town school that counted on tax revenue from stable jobs, slashing programs. You can feel it in the air, the silence where there used to be noise. The economic heartbeat slows. This is the human cost. Not just lost income, but lost identity. Not just closed factories, but closed dreams. John Deere wasn't just a paycheck, it was pride. People wore the logo like armor. They were part of something bigger than themselves. Now they feel left behind. And worse, they feel betrayed. Because they didn't walk away. They didn't quit. They were cut loose while the country talked, recorded an expansion in Mexico. So the question becomes, what's a worker worth when the spreadsheet takes priority over people? And if companies like John Deere keep choosing numbers over names, who's left to believe in the American dream? This isn't just about economics anymore. It's about human dignity. Because a company can rebuild a factory, but trust, once that's gone, it doesn't come back easy. Chapter 5: Political Fallout and Public Outcry. When John Deere announced the layoffs, the factory floor wasn't the only place that erupted. Congress started asking questions. Citizens started raising, and across America, a familiar fire began to burn. Because this wasn't just about a single factory in Illinois. This was about something deeper. This was about American identity. John Deere isn't just a company, it's woven into the DNA of the Midwest. So when it starts cutting jobs and shifting operations to Mexico, it strikes a nerve that runs from Main Street to Capitol Hill. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle began speaking out. Some called for investigations, others demanded corporate accountability. And in community halls, town meetings, and even on the Senate floor, one question echoed louder than the rest. If John Deere won't stand by American workers, who will? Protesters lined the streets. The unions rallied. Veterans, farmers, and factory workers stood shoulder to shoulder, not for politics, but for principle. They weren't just fighting for jobs. They were fighting for dignity. Because when a brand that built its fortune on American soil starts chasing foreign labor for cheaper costs, it sends a clear message. Loyalty only matters when it's convenient. And that's a message America is rejecting. The backlash has been swift and public. People are boycotting, dealers are pulling stock, and politicians are threatening consequences, including removing tax incentives and federal contracts. Even presidential candidates are using John Deere as a talking point, not as a success story, but as a warning. Because this isn't just about layoffs anymore. This is about a tipping point. A moment when Americans are saying enough. To offshoring, to corporate greed, to billion-dollar companies turning their backs on the very people who built them. John Deere may have made a business decision, but America is making a political one. Chapter 6: Trade Tariffs and a Fragile Farm Economy. Farming has never been easy. Right now it's on the brink. Commodity prices are unstable, fuel costs are rising, interest rates are tightening, and now another shockwave: tariffs. America's trade war with countries like China and Mexico is turning up the heat, just as small farmers are trying to recover. And in the middle of this chaos, John Deere. You see, Deere's business depends on more than just equipment. It depends on a functioning, balanced trade system. But with recent policy shifts, U.S. agriculture exports are getting hit hard. China is retaliating, supply chains are strained, and some parts, especially electronics and steel, are now more expensive to source. The result? Higher prices for equipment, lower for farmers, and deeper distrust. Because for many in rural America, John Deere wasn't supposed to flinch when times got tough. But now farmers say the company is shifting jobs overseas, raising equipment prices, and prioritizing automation, while the ground beneath their boots grows less stable every year. It feels like they're fighting two wars, one against the market, and one against their own suppliers. And here's the twist. While laying off American workers, John Deere continues to profit from Geno markets. Their operations in Mexico? Growing. Their stock value? Stable. Meanwhile, the very communities that built the brand are left picking up the pieces. And now, with possible new tariffs on imported farm machinery under review, the pain may only deepen. Experts warn, if tariffs rise, costs could explode, and the strain on small farms may be irreversible. This isn't just a policy debate. This is a survival crisis. For the farmer in Iowa or Nebraska trying to make it through another planting season, it's not about politics. It's about putting food on the table. And if Deere can't adapt, not just with innovation, but with compassion and community support, they risk losing the very people who made them iconic. Chapter 7: Brand loyalty tested. Competitors move in. For over a century, John Deere was more than a name. It was a badge of honor. Across the Midwest, loyalty to that green and yellow logo ran deep. Generations of farmers swore by Deere. It was passed down like a family heirloom. But now, that loyalty is being tested. After layoffs, after offshoring, after price hikes and disappearing support, farmers are starting to look elsewhere, because loyalty only lasts as long as it's returned. And right now, many feel that John Deere has stopped listening. Enter the competitors: Kubota, Caterpillar, Mahindra, New Holland. Brands once seen as second tier are now stealing the spotlight. And the customers, because they're doing something John Deere forgot how to do: listen, respond, and stand with the people who use their machines. Kubota is offering flexible financing, local dealer support, and equipment tailored to smaller farms. Caterpillar is leaning into durability and reliability, building strong relationships with contractors and landowners. Even international brands are showing up with affordable, high-tech alternatives that feel personal, not corporate. And the farmers? They paying attention. In online forums, local fairs, and supply shops, the conversation is changing. The question isn't, which John Deere should I buy? It's, do I even need a John Deere anymore? Because once trust is broken, even a legendary brand can become repeatable. And the competitors are moving fast, offering incentives, leveraging local networks, and painting themselves as the modern alternative to a company that's lost touch. This is more than a market shift. This is a reputation collapse. And once loyalty fades, it rarely comes back. If John Deere wants to hold its place at the top, it can't just sell excellent equipment. It has to relearn its place in the hearts of American farmers. Because in the world of agriculture, where trust means everything, when you lose the field, you loves the future. Chapter 8: Rebuilding Trust or Losing Everything. John Deere has a choice to make. It can keep chasing short-term profits, offshoring jobs, and selling machines to people it no longer understands. Or it can come home. Because what's at stake isn't just revenue. It's trust. It's history. It's the very soul of American farming. Right now, the company stands at a crossroads. One path leads deeper into automation, outsourcing, and stockholder satisfaction. The other? Rebuilding the relationship that made it a legend in the first place. That starts with owning the damage, acknowledging the pain caused by layoffs, recognizing the silence that followed, and realizing that communities can't be treated like collateral damage. John Deere has to go back to its roots, not just in name, but in action. That means reinvesting in local plants, strengthening rural job security, and showing up not just on product brochures, but in the lives of real people. It means giving farmers not just tools, but a voice. Because rebuilding trust doesn't happen in a boardroom. It happens in small towns, one conversation at a time. It means leadership must listen, and not to trends, but to truth. Because once a company loses the people who built it, it becomes just a logo on a machine. And the reality is clear. The compatibility isn't just other brands. It's a culture shift. People today want authenticity. They want support. They want to believe that the companies they buy from believe in them too. So here's the final question. Will John Deere fight for its legacy, or watch it fade into corporate history? Because time is running out, and the people who once wore the Deere hat with pride, they're waiting to see if the brand they loved still loves them back. John Deere isn't just a company, it's a cornerstone of American farming. But right now, that cornerstone is crumbling. The layoffs shook more than just factory walls. They fractured communities, disrupted families, and shattered trust. This story isn't about profits or machines. It's about people. People who gave their lives to a company that once stood for strength, only to feel discarded when it mattered most. But the story isn't over yet. John Deere has the power to turn this around, to reinvest in its workers, to listen to the voices in small towns, and to rebuild what's been lost. Because loyalty works both ways. So here's your chance to weigh in. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should John Deere be held accountable? Smash that like button if you believe American workers deserve better. And subscribe for more stories that reveal the truth behind the brands we trusted. This is Billionaire Zone, where we don't just cover business, we cover the people left in its wake. And the people are watching.